Can Desert Altina still do it? And can Ilyana actually kill Neithogre? These are the questions you should be asking, but first, I need to know, who are you looking forward to playing the most in this Hall of Forms? Let me know in the comments, but let's get into it.
Give me your best.
It was not too long ago that Altina was a premier Omni tank, and here we have her in Hall of Forms. And let's go over this quick. Arcadian Axes, we have Slaying, we have Dual Phase Brave, which is always good. We have Distant Counter, and then we have a whole bunch of debuffs. We have the Scowl effect, which was crazy at the time. And then we have Arms of 3, and we have boosting special damage by Res. We have Piercing, and then if this special is ready, we have Dragon Wall, which this unit has a lot of res. So there's lots of pieces to work with here, and I'm gonna do something kind of interesting. Let's go to the builds that I'm looking at here, and I want to look at the Omni Tank first. And you'll notice for both of these, I'm getting rid of Arms of 3, which kind of hurts me because if you look at the special in a vacuum, it's pretty good. But honestly, it just isn't holding up in the meta right now for all the things you want to do. And the main thing, it's not as good as that and Reopen versus Glacies and Lagoo's Friend 4. Lagoo's Friend 4 is just amazing, period. And I mean, that's a big deal. This is just the build you have right now on tanks. You have Bonus Doubler 4, Lagoo's Friend 4. I've got a ploy on her. She really wanted Pulse Up Ploy, but it's just not available yet. That would have been absolutely amazing on her, but it is something, if you're a big fan, that's something you can get later on. Hardy Bearing is absolutely a necessity, and Null Sea Disrupt is a necessity if you're going to go in light season. The reason I really want to put it up there, as well as you'll see Tempo Echo here in a little bit, but I want to make sure you realize that once you get rid of Arms of 3, not only can you run Lagoo's Friend 4 in a high damaging special, but you can also put some of these attuned skills on this unit if she's your favorite. So just keep that in mind. The Sims, I have actually taken that off, but I really wanted to pinpoint, like, these are the max invest builds if you're using this unit. The other is a melee nuke, and Dual Phase Brave is good. I know this is a shocker. Absolute shocker to you guys, but Dual Phase Brave is very good. And I mean, right now we're stacking up Resin Attack with Crystalline Water and Still Water. We have Momentum 4, which is a lot of fun to help you with AoEs, and Pulse Up Blades just to help you with a little more cooldown. And this unit can do a lot of damage that way. So this is another fun way you can use this unit. But I'll be honest, most of the time you're going to be going towards the Omni Tank build. It's the way this unit is made. Let's look at the Sims though. So I don't mention enough that these are all from the Arctic Silver Fox sim, and he's absolutely amazing. Thank you for all that you do.
But I'm begging you.
This is interesting, and we have a lot of matchups that she wins that I wouldn't expect, and then a matchup that she loses that I was completely surprised at. And the thing you want to look at here is how much damage can she get out. That is the biggest thing. I know this is not a shocker, this is not earth-shattering, but the problem with Robin is you're delaying Glacies, which means that you're not getting it off as much as with the other units, which is an interesting thing, but it was a big surprise. I also want you to pay attention. This is me trying to look at an actual defense and how these units behave, and you are going up against a ton of debuffs in Astra Season right now. That is Discord and Deep Wounds and Exposure and Sabotage, and all of this is mainly Hathran, and then you've got Micaiah, and you see those on so many defenses that I've kind of made them a mainstay here. All of that, and she is still surviving fairly well with a lot of these units. The Lucina matchup is nice. Keep in mind that is if you make sure you keep her from using Future Focus, which if you're setting Altina up correctly, you can do this. But just keep in mind that is a very important thing if you're going up against Lucina. Still, this is a nice set of matchups, and it is absolutely key to have that Hardy Bearing, but this is respectable. Honestly, this is situationally good, and she is really just preempt pulse away from being able to take out Robin. So keep that in mind, and this is a good use for this unit. So if you're looking at different holoform skills for the Omni Tank build, we talked about it, but Lagoo's Friend 4 is the must-have in that group. I do have Boulder and No Quarter up there. Understand that I didn't have that on either of my builds. Those are neat to have. If you're looking at the must-haves in both of these, though, it's the B skills. The Lagoo's Friend 4 or the Momentum 4, everything kind of hinges around them. Reposition Gate is just going to be the go-to thing that everyone tells you to get on every infantry and armored unit, because right now it is very rare. I don't see them changing that, but they might. As far as the other skills, Attack Res Ploy is there, but that's something that's fairly common. And then on the other hand, you have Pulse Up Blades, which isn't common. But if we're really looking at this, Pulse Up Blades is a slight upgrade to Times Pulse in this configuration. And remember, this is eventually going towards an AoE. So both of those are good. We have some extra things on there. Breath of Life is always nice to have on there, as well as Endless Tempest. Also, the Slide Mirror is really good in the A skill if you're going with a melee nuke build. There's some other stuff you can get, but again, if I'm looking at the must-haves, those B skills are probably the thing that I am most concerned with. If you're looking at the build that I would go for, it would definitely be the Omni Tank build. This unit is built for that, and I think that's a great thing to go for. Again, though, Lagoo's Friend 4 is the must-have of that group.
Give me your snacks.
Next, we have young Ilyana, and this unit actually has an interesting stat line to work with, and particularly just the dumping of defense altogether. So, Windy War Tome, we have Res +3, you inflict attack Res -6, you have Dragon Wall, which is nice, and then if units Res is greater than foes Res +5, foe cannot make a follow-up attack. Keep in mind, for now, that's still very valuable because we don't have as much null follow-up, but I want to go straight into the builds because this is kind of an interesting one. I have two different versions of what I'm trying to do with this, but the main use case that I'm looking for is kind of the arena assault, need to kill all of the stupid things that are out there like Marnie and Neithogre. That was my goal with this. Now, we have two versions of that. The max invest, the biggest difference here is we're looking at that Arcane Truthfire. And Arcane Truthfire is a fantastic tome, but remember, that is not available in this Holoforms. This is something that you would have to put on the unit afterwards. What it enables, though, is that fantastic AoE build within Sly Mirror, Resonance 4, and Pulse Up Blades to get as much going for this unit as possible. If you're really max investing, this is yet another unit that would have loved Pulse Up Ploy. The budget version of this will work. The biggest difference is I'm going with Flare and, of course, Windy War Tome. And I'm anxious for you guys to see this. This is the Desperation and the Triangle Attack. And essentially, you're trying to get just as much true damage on the enemy as possible. So first up, I want to just look at the basic build there. And this isn't bad. The biggest thing I want you to look at there is Marnie and being able to take her out, which is really fantastic. But keep in mind that does take 4 hits with Desperation. But that's not as hard to get as it used to be. We have 3 different units that will give out that Brave effect in Marissa and Katria and Cordelia. And as far as the Desperation effect, you can even get that with a Dancer with Firestorm Dance, which of course is on a 4-star special on this latest banner, which is kind of fantastic. You can't take out Nagi, and of course you don't take Neithogre with this. I will say the one other thing I have on these units is exposure, and you're going to have to be able to get that some way. This is where I was talking about really wanting Pulse Up Ploy, and if you could do that, obviously you could get that without an external source, but exposure is very, very good in the meta right now. What I want to show you is the difference between this and the max invest, because this is something. You'll notice clean sweep there. I mean, mostly clean sweep. She does take a little damage from Neithogre because of the pre-combat damage, but listen, Blazing Wind plus 4 hits of true damage is just good. I mean, that's really fantastic, and this is something that you can go in and have a counter for a lot of these just stupid units that we have right now in your arena assault teams, or even if you wanted to use this unit some other way and just absolutely surprise somebody. But I thought this was a really fun way to be able to use this unit, even though it does require Arcane Truthfire, which is unfortunate. Now, the 2 builds I have up here, the ranged nuke, this is basically both of them have Flare, Sly Mirror, Resonance 4, and Pulse Up Blades. That's just what you want to go for. I'm going to stop saying Reposition Gate because that's just what you want on every infantry unit. There is another way to go with this unit though, and that is the support build where you got Speed Res Discord and Attack Res Ploy 3. And I mean, Stillwater, just stacking that res. This is something that can be a lot of fun if you've got just one of these Ilyanas laying around and you want something to do with them. This is something that is actually pretty handy and pretty useful. Other skills you can look for is Breath of Life. I looked long and hard at Laguz Run 4. What I wanted to do was I was hoping that I could come up with some way to have her survive the basically Lucina. If I could get her to survive Ninja Lucina, I was going to have her as the tank that sits behind whatever unit you have against Larother, and because she has such low defense, she would come in and save the unit. But I couldn't get enough bulk on this unit. That defense is just terrible. So I wouldn't suggest it, but it is something fun you can try. As far as these other things, we talked about bonus doubler 4. It's just my go-to because it gives you so many stats, and that's a lot of fun. So these are some different things you can look at as well. If we're looking at my choice, it is absolutely the nuke build. And I mean, if you have the extra stuff to build in Pulse Up Ploy and Arcane Truthfire, this is actually a unit that can really contribute.
Fight me fair and square!
Next up, we have Mia, and there's actually some interesting things you can do with melee infantry units right now. If we look at Sharp War Sword, we have Slang, Phantom Speed. If unit was within 2 spaces of an ally, grants Null Follow-Up, which is very nice, and Dodge, which is okay. And if unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, you get an Omni +5. All right, this is... It's pretty outdated, honestly. It's not outdated enough that I'm looking at an arcane weapon, though. So this is something that I still like on this unit. I have 2 different ways you can go with her. The first is if you wanted to have a Gale Force unit, and honestly, she doesn't do too bad of a job. You can do just the standard Flash Sparrow, Wings of Mercy 4, Infantry Pulse 4, and then of course the Attack Speed Clash 3 Seal, as well as Reposition Gate. This is something that can actually function on a team if this is a way you want to use her. She's not an initiator, but she can come in as a secondary and get a couple of actions just through that Gale Force. If you're looking at the melee nuke build, we have Sly Swift Sparrow, Desperation 4, and Inside Attack Speed. We've seen this before, but this is kind of an interesting play on the old Desperation builds that we used to look at. This unit can do some damage that way. I didn't include Sims on this because I still think she misses kills on the key nukes right now, which if you're in AA, which most likely that's what we would be doing the melee nuke build for, that's Marnie and Neathogre. She couldn't take out either of those, so I didn't put those in. This is still a way you can do a lot of damage with this unit. When we break down the holoform skills, the key pieces to both of these builds are the Wings of Mercy 4 on the Gale Force build and the Sly Swift Sparrow on the melee nuke build. The other pieces to this are a little easier to get, but those are the kind of the cornerstones of that. I do like No Quarter as a special. I know I have Gale Force there, but I'd probably go for No Quarter in both circumstances, or maybe Ruptured Sky. But the other pieces there, Desperation 4 and Inside Attack Speed, are very nice. Infantry Pulse 4, there are a lot of different ways you can get Pulse down. On a Gale Force team, the nice thing about Infantry Pulse 4 is that you help out your teammates as well, though, as long as they're infantry. For other things you can look at, I mean, I sound like a broken record, but Bonus Doubler 4 is fantastic. Attack Speed Excel is something else you could target. Momentum 4 is fun on every melee unit, so that is something you can do as well. And of course, Endless Tempest is another one that is just, it's a fun skill and it's really solid. I needed to do more with the C skill than I could with the Endless Tempest. For my pick, I've got to go with the Gale Force build. It's like I said, the other one, I didn't really find a solid place for that, whereas I know I can find a solid place for a Wings of Mercy 4 Gale Forcer. And Wings of Mercy 4 is not a skill that everyone has, and it will absolutely change your player phase game if that's what you want to do with this unit.
It's rude to stare.
Last up, we have Tanith, and of course we have no PRF weapon here, so there's nothing much to talk about. These are my 2 builds, and you'll notice I have Johanna Lance on both of these. And honestly, this is just a fantastic lance. This is not available in this holoform. So let's make that very clear. But it is available on Saber, who is in the current Tempest trial. So that's a big thing that you can use, and it's one of the best lances in the game that's inheritable. So keep that in mind. If we really dig into this though, the AA nuke, this is no quarter, attack speed mastery, Wyvern Rift, which is very good on her, and then Deadly Miasma, which I find for melee nukes is the C skill that gets the most damage out of these units and also helps your teammates as well. It's this other one, and honestly, if I hadn't have come up with this other one, I'm not sure I would have done Tanith at all. This is a really interesting thing to look at, and this is all because of Johanna Lance. And let me be clear, this is a little bit of a meme, but not a lot. Reflective damage right now, and that's one of the things that Johanna Lance gives you, is incredibly powerful. The hard part about it is it doesn't have slaying. If it had slaying, it would be an off the charts lance. But because of that, you have to come up with other ways to proc things like Miracle. When you're talking about a reflective build, essentially this unit would go in and hit once and then just get demolished. But Miracle would save them and they would reflect all that damage back on the opposing unit. Now, the trick here is to be able to proc Miracle, and there are a couple hard things with flyers, the biggest being it's hard to get special cooldown. You think about infantry units and they have so much that they can get. And if you think about flying units, they don't even have Flashing Blade. There just aren't a lot of skills that give that to you. So you've got to go through stuff like Valoria and Duocrom just to get that procced. I also have Odd Defense Wave to make sure that you don't get any sort of a guard on this unit. Now, the other thing I have on this unit is Brash Assault 4, and I want to make sure you understand Brash Assault 4 has contained reflective damage. All the reflective damage that Brash Assault keeps is what's reflected back. But I thought it was fun to have something that, you know, you have the reflective damage from Johanna Lance, which is the full reflective, and then you have Brash Assault, which is, you know, the less effective. And again, I just think this is fun and a way to just get a ton of damage out on the opposing team. You're seeing the builds that we talked about right there. If I look at the key pieces to each of these, honestly, Wyvern Rift for the melee nuke build is very, very good on this unit, and you could make an argument that it might have even been a better use on the Reflect nuke, but I just loved Brash Assault 4. I think it goes with that unit very well. One or the other would be just fine. I do like that skill quite a bit. Sly Swift Sparrow is the one you're really going to want to look at for the reflective nuke. I know that's weird because of all this unit does, but Sly Swift Sparrow puts out a lot of damage and is very, very good on any sort of melee nuke. Most of the heavy lifting is going to come from Johanna Lance and Miracle on this. The rest is a lot of fun. If you're looking at my target, it's got to be the reflective nuke. I just think this is such a fun gimmick, and I've already seen showcases of this around Reddit, and I absolutely love it. It's a fun thing to do with this unit. So it's time to look at what's coming in the future, and keep in mind this has been very volatile lately, to the point where they've been changing last minute. Just think of Legendary Myrrh. She wasn't in there until the very final hour where they swapped her out. What I can say is we're almost certain that Micaiah is going to be in February, and Micaiah is a very good unit with her new refine. What's interesting is we get into the further months. March has a possible Alencia, or we even have Naga. If I'm a betting man, which I play a gacha game, I'm definitely saying that Naga is going to be that unit. Naga has been holding steady in that spot for a few months now. I just think Alencia is a little bit too new. If we look at May is an interesting one because it's 3 houses, and we have Claude and Edelgard and Byleth all lining up. Is it going to be one or all of these? You never know with IS. July is another interesting one with heroes, and we have a lot of interesting mythics lining up in that spot. In particular, we're talking about Thrasher, who honestly wouldn't be terrible and is still usable in a lot of different modes. But then we have Dogger, who is really good and one of my personal favorites. And then we have Thor, which would be fantastic. Keep in mind, it is too far off to really nail those down. What I can tell you for sure, or almost for sure, is Micaiah is in February. If you're looking for information on CYL, I just did a full preview of that. Go check that out. Members, you are amazing. Thank you for so much that you do. Take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.